What up, everybody? So I am finally back at it. Operation Corona has, where to go? Switched to Operation Guinness for tonight. You know, that's how it goes. Whatever's in the fridge now. I guess I called that Corona thing a little bit early, huh? So that's kind of funny. But anyway, so this is kind of what I'm doing. I'm gonna go ahead and try and mount a couple fuse blocks and relays just to a piece of plastic here. And then that will go over here in my trunk. I think I might have showed you this in the last video. It's been so long, I don't remember what I've showed you. But yeah, I was kind of waiting for the Frankenstein wiring video for the swap to come out, and it did. And I quickly realized that he did not take the fuse box out that sits here. And so if I still had mine wired in here and everything, then I could probably, basically follow his and be good to go, and a lot easier and quicker. But since I've already cut everything out, I kind of screwed myself. And so I kind of bumped my wiring diagram with his. He's got a few less fuses because he's using the stock stuff, and some of his circuits are sharing fuses and stuff from the original box. I had already kind of mapped out all of my stuff here. I know it's a nightmare, but I understand it. So what it left me with is like 5 relays, including like the starter relay. Well, these aren't actually wired yet, but one will be starter, one will be like that main, I forget what they call it, it's a dumb name. But yeah, like the 2 main ones, which are already right here in the car, boom, boom, those 2 will get replaced and cleaned up. And then there's like 3 more. And then I've got 6 fuses here that are coming off of one of the main power wires coming back from the trunk. Yeah, this right here, this whole block will be fed by the 40 amp AM2 fuse. So yeah, those will all be fed with that. And then this one, these are all like individual. And so they'll be used for a few random ones. There's a fuse for like the starter that I'm gonna use. And then just some various ones that aren't fed off that main AM2. They'll go through this block. It's not going to look OEM, which I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about it. It's kind of nice to have an OEM looking car, but at the same time, I feel like this setup will be pretty easy to work on, easy to get to and everything, and it'll be laid out in a way that you can kind of see everything and kind of get to everything. So, whatever. It's my car. I'm going to run it how I want to run it. So that's how I'm going to do it. I think it'll be okay. I guess the other downfall is right now I don't have carpet in here, and if I were to put carpet in there, I'd be covering up a bunch of electronics, and I'm not super keen on that. I mean, I guess worst case scenario, I could just put a couple screw holes, how I'm mounting it, just put screw holes through the carpet and mount it over the top of the carpet too. So not a big deal. I think it should work, and I am just super excited to get this thing running. Well, it's like, I don't know, 2 hours later? I don't know when I started doing this. I think I started around 8ish, it's 10 o'clock now. I took all that stuff that I had on that black piece of plastic, I mounted everything to the plastic, took my angle grinder and cut the ends of the screws off because the screws are all pretty long. And then I took it and mounted it in my trunk. And I don't even know what these came with, some piece of crap furniture. There we go. And they're just like plastic, I don't know, plastic tubing or whatever. I'm using those as spacers, so I cut them in half because they're pretty long by themselves. And then that's what's giving me the spacing back behind here. Don't really need it, it's just all the little ends of the screws and stuff that are back there. Because I didn't cut them all the way like right up against the plastic because the plastic is so thin. I didn't want to melt my threads that I had cut. But yeah, there it all is in the car. I don't think it looks terrible. Like I said, it doesn't look OEM, but whatever. And so from there, I've got these wires together are what's going to the 40 amp AM2, or from the 40 amp AM2. They're going to feed in right here. And then I've got like 6 fuses in there. Yeah, the starter relay. This is it's C/open. I don't know what it means. Circuit open relay. Yeah, that one. That's going away. And then I've got like 3 more. I'm gonna have to look at my wiring diagram to tell you. It's been a while. What up, everybody? So I have been at work a little bit with Operation, man, it was like Guinness the other night. I think tonight it's Operation Coors. you know, when times are tough, you drink what you got, right? So I'm starting with the starter relay. So this is the factory one right here. Little skinny wire that's still connected to something. That's coming from my starter switch in the car, going through the clutch safety switch, and making its way out to here. So that's basically connected to the actual body harness of the car. This other one is the one going to the starter. That's what's going to feed it power. And then these other two aren't connected to anything right now. So the little skinny one was the ground for the starter switch side of it. And then this is the one that actually needs to get power to the starter. Looking at the MR2 diagram, it actually shows it pulling power for that starter from the main cable that goes to the starter. So I'm going to add a ring terminal way down there on the starter itself. So this is the main wire that feeds the starter. Add a ring terminal there, run it to the relay. This is like battery. I think it might have one fuse in it, I don't remember, to be honest. I'd have to double check, but it is like straight battery. If that melts, you're gonna burn your car down. So yeah, that's it. That's what I'm gonna be working on tonight. I'm kind of just attacking everything one circuit at a time. So right now I'm focusing on the starter circuit. And oh, additionally, I've got, as part of the starter circuit, there's two, like this is like your neutral safety switch and stuff. There's two wires that need to get power when you're trying to start the car to keep the ECU happy. So A48, B62 for me. I've got the 2 plug, like RAV4 harness. I just was stripping apart my old stuff, and this is that same wire feeding the starter relay. And lo and behold, here's two wires that look like they go to the ECU. Sorry, my neighbor's popping wheelies. That's pretty cool. So those two, I'm going to double check, but I bet you those are the two wires I need to include in my harness. See my nasty splice? Like, this was wrapped in electrical tape before I got it. So this is the kind of rat's nest that I am trying to get rid of, though. You got wires going everywhere. I'm actually going to just run this one wire through the firewall and then splice into this. I've got a bunch of new stuff. These are all like the open barrel connectors because I have the crimping tool for them. And I've been really happy with the ones that I've used in the past, but before I thought they only made these for like fuse blocks and like connector pins and stuff, but they make them for all the different terminals and stuff too. So I'm going to be using those. And then I've also got, instead of doing the splice like I just showed you where I just kind of solder it and wrap it in tape or heat shrink, I've got the little heat shrink solder butt connectors or solder splices. I don't know what they call them for sure. But all you have to do is heat those up, and the solder in the center there melts, it makes the seal, and then the tube around it shrinks and forms a heat shrink seal, so weather tight seal. So this will work pretty good. These are just like spade connectors and stuff, so I can connect to like my fuse block and everything like that. So I think with all that stuff, that should help make it a much more reliable and a lot cleaner installation. So I'm not going to bore you with actually doing it all, but that's kind of where I'm at. Just a quick update. So I left off yesterday with the starter relay and starter fuse and some stuff wired up. It's down here. Oh, I don't remember what I went over with you, but this is my starter relay now. The factory one that mounts, I think right here, is out of the car, no longer needed. And the next one is going to be, I'm calling it the IG2, and that's referencing the RAV4 names for that one. And that is going to power two different fuses. So two of them over on this side here. as well as the power to the coil and the coils and the power to the fuel injectors. So let me show you kind of what I'm doing here. I've got my hand drawn stuff. Alright, so we are on ignition 2 relay. Like I said, it's going to power your fuel injectors. At one point I thought it was the same wire, so I crossed out coil and then realized there's actually 2 wires. So it's going to power your coil, and then it's going to power this 10 amp gauge 1, as well as the 7.5 amp ignition fuse. One thing that's been nice is the diagram is basically the same as how I had the car running. I just tried to document it. So like right away I went and looked for these 2 fuses, and I found that over here in this chintzy one that was just hanging, it's these 2. And so then I can look and go, okay, well, off of here I've got like 3 wires coming off of the 7.5 amp fuse. Like, where do those go? And then I look at my drawing, and 7.5 amps, it's going to 2 pins on the ECU, A28, A35. It's got to go to the transponder ECU, as well as charge the coil for the circuit opening relay. So I guess that's actually 4 wires if you count it, but I'll get down to it. But see, what I'm saying is I can actually trace back how the wires are run right now, and a lot of them I'm able to find just based on looking at what's going on in the car. So for like the fuel injection or fuel injectors and the coil, to find those wires, I had to dig into my book that is super worth buying, and I checked out like IG2 relay, which is over here. Oh, my bad. Over here. And it goes through connector BA1. All these connectors are in the back here. And where are they? Here they are. All these connectors are in the back. And so I was able to figure out that BA1 is one of them that comes out of my fuse box that was over here, the RAV4 one. So this is BA1 right here, I think. No, BA3. I'm lying. Working with the camera here. This is BA1, and just looking at it, I've got 2 red wires. Well, that was a red wire on there. Every single connector, you're not going to be able to see it on camera, I bet, but it's got numbers on there for the different pins. The 2 red wires are pins 7 and 10 on BA1. And if you look right there, BA1, and you got a little 7. So there you go, 7 is the one that's powering all the red line, all of your fuel injectors, and then it's the same for ignition, just the other pin, and that's what powers your coils. So that's kind of the process I'm doing as I take out all the stuff like this rat's nest, just kind of figuring out what went where, rerouting it nicely, and then terminating everything all nice and splicing everything nicely. So it's a bit tedious, but it's actually easier than I thought it was going to be because the drawing is pretty well matching the car. Holy cow, folks, that didn't take nearly as long as expected. Camera's been off, but over the last like 2 or 3 days, pretty much got her all wired in, at least per my drawing. She's still not super pretty, but like this is the only wire that really sticks out like a sore thumb. That's for my Obd2, which I haven't mounted yet, so I just kind of temporarily did that one. But other than that, I've got all those yellow, those are the normally closed on the relays. Those all need to get snipped out. All the yellow ones just going straight down. Other than that, we just got everything kind of, needs to be cleaned up. Like that wire fits in there to length, and then this is a little bit of a rat's nest still going through here. A lot of it just needs to be loomed and kind of straightened out a little bit, but everything I ran through, I tried to do a good path and be consistent and not get anything tangled. I did notice when I was putting this ground on, this mess over here is my anti-theft, which most likely I'll go ahead and just have Frankenstein Motor Works do the ECU flash and get rid of all that stuff. But right now, yeah, I got 1 wire. That's the battery wire going to it. I could have put it, this is the ignition wire going to it. I could have ran those together a little better. Yeah, so that's all hooked up, ready to be tested. Up here, I've still got a pretty decent mess. All this is like literally this is wire twisted together, not even soldered, to get an Obd2 signal. So that's all going to be mounted somewhere and wired in permanently. That's the next step, actually, as long as everything runs. And then, like, this is my gas pedal. That could get cleaned up. Ground could get cleaned up. And then I've got like this is my temp sensor. That needs to get cleaned up. So pretty much next step I've got is mount this, get this all wired permanently, then come through here and clean everything else up. I've still got a couple, these were going into the fuse box on the RAV4, and so as long as it starts up, that tells me that I can trace all these wires back and take them out of that connector going to the ECU. But for now, they're just going to hang out there. So yeah, first step, I think I'll plug in my little Obd2 scanner and give the thing ignition, or yeah, ignition power, and go from there, see if I've got temps and that sort of thing. And then if everything looks good, I'll try and crank her. One thing, I do have the thing on the charger right now because it's been sitting forever. Hopefully the battery's got some juice in it. So I've got all that power distribution wiring done. Tried to start it and she doesn't even want to crank because my battery's dead. And I'm not cool and I don't have a like jump pack or anything. I just got my little battery tender there. So I've had it on the charger all day, or not all day, like afternoon, a few hours. A little while ago it was clicking, so I figured maybe now it'll actually try and crank over. So I'm gonna give it a whirl. Otherwise it'll probably be a few hours longer, or just tomorrow morning. It's already evening here. So yeah, just wanna see if she's running. Sad face, it actually sounded like it wanted to try and crank the starter over that time. That's the first time it's done that. So it is morning. The car has been on the charger all night, and I had like 15 minutes before I had to go do something this morning, so I ran out here and tried to start it, and the thing fired right up. Sorry I didn't record it. But since I didn't have much time, I didn't plug in the Obd2 scanner or anything. So I want to actually have the garage door open this time. Plug in my scanner and see what kind of codes that we're throwing. Alright, so we are connected. Hopefully it's in focus. Let's go to Diagnostics. Let's just see if any trouble codes got stored. Oh boy, here we go. Just from the last one. So evap, yeah, that's to be expected. Transmission, yep. Pressure control solenoid, those are all transmissions. Shift solenoid, pressure control solenoid, torque converter, okay. So all those are confirmed and they are all basically to be expected. The only one I'm going to double check is that PO705 because I've got it wired so that the engine or the ECU should think it's in drive. Transmission range sensor circuit malfunction. And then I think those are all the same, just pending. Alright, so yeah, let's start her up. Nothing crazy yet, and then we'll check all the PIDs. So she's definitely idling high. I'll have to look into that. You see right there, 1300 RPM. Maybe I got the wrong pin and she thinks she's in park, but I'm pretty sure I got the right one. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want to just let it idle. Just make sure everything's good. What's my voltage? Yeah, 13.8. That's good also. That means that my alternator is very likely charging. And maybe just let it settle in. Actually, the RPMs are dropping. Now we're at the 1300 to 1290 range. So maybe just let her warm up. She is still a little cold. 127 degrees Fahrenheit. And just kind of go from there, you know. It sounds like it's running good. I don't see anything bursting into flames, so knock on wood. And maybe we'll take her out for a test drive soon. Well, I think she is about cleaned up, folks. I still got to clean out the trunk, but other than that, like all the wiring at least, I think is cleaned up. Let me show you how it turned out. So here's my Obd2 plug. It's still kind of sloppy. There's some pins that I didn't need, but when I loom it and everything, that'll all get cleaned up. One of these wires is actually labeled, this one, and I just kind of got it hanging out here. That's my check engine light, so I'm gonna probably put that in the loom, but I might use it some other time. And then from there, that white connector there is actually an MR2 connector. I didn't want to hack up the harness anymore, so I left it and just kind of put it over to the side there. And then this guy right here, that's going to my gas pedal, so it's kind of coming out of the body. And then everything kind of just goes through here, through the firewall. The rest of it drops down. You can kind of see it way down there. That's all the actual engine control stuff going to the motor. So it all turned out pretty clean. I did mess up on these two wires. Those are going to the starter. They should have followed the rest of those wires that kind of swoop down below there. I'll fix that when I loom everything up. So yeah, clean everything up. It's still zip tied. I'm not a super big fan of zip ties because they can chafe the wires a little bit, but I think it'll be okay for the short term. So that's the engine side. Moving into the trunk, we've got coming through here. We've got obviously our ECU harness. These are Obd2. It's not. I'm not for sure what I want to do with that yet, so I'm kind of just leaving them. They're kind of the sore thumb at the moment. Yeah. Then I've got all my fuses and relays. I still will probably just trim these yellow ones as short as I can. Those are the normally closed, so they're not really used. Yeah, other than that, that's about it. I still got the anti-theft stuff, which I might get rid of someday, just by reflashing the ECU. And then I've got a mess to clean up. Earlier in the videos I had a million zip ties on here. That's because I'd run a wire and then I'd zip tie it just so that it would stay routed nicely and not get all tangled up, and I'd get my lengths correct. But yeah, I went through, cut all those off that weren't necessary anymore, and just got what I need now. And I think it turned out pretty good. So I think at this point the next step is just going to be drive it for a few months, and then I want to put this E153 in there. And when I go to do that, I will pull the motor. So all the wires that go directly to the relays and the fuses will have to get cut somewhere near the firewall, and then have a connector added so that they're not basically hardwired through that hole, so we can pull the engine easily. We'll do that, and then loom everything, get rid of those zip ties, clean everything up, put the new new to me E153 in, and should be pretty good as far as drivetrain is concerned then. So yeah, that would be a whole new world for me to have an actual reliable drivetrain. So thanks for watching, catch you next time.